She never expected to see him again. 3 days earlier, Naomi had given her last $10 to a disheveled stranger at the grocery store, money she desperately needed herself. Now, as she sat nervously in the cafe, clutching a glass of water she couldn't afford to upgrade to coffee, she wondered who had really sent that mysterious note. When the cafe door swung open, her breath caught in her throat. The man who entered was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his silver-streaked hair neatly trimmed, moving with the confident posture of someone accustomed to power. It took several seconds before recognition dawned. It was him, the same man she'd helped, but completely transformed. As he approached her table with a sleek leather briefcase, his piercing blue eyes locked with hers. "Ms. Reynolds," he said, his voice clear and authoritative. "Thank you for coming." Naomi's heart raced. How'd he know her full name? How had he found her? And what was in that mysterious briefcase he now placed between them? She was about to discover that her small act of kindness, $10 she couldn't spare, had set in motion events that would change her life forever. The checkout line at Morrison Grocers seemed to stretch endlessly as Naomi Reynolds gripped her shopping basket with white knuckles. Her stomach tightened with each beep of the scanner at the register. $27. That was all she had left until next week. $27 to stretch across 7 days of meals, bus fare, and the small prescription she needed to refill. Naomi tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear and glanced down at her carefully selected items. A loaf of day-old bread, 1 carton of eggs, a bag of rice, 2 onions, a small block of cheese, a pack of ramen noodles, and a bottle of store-brand pain relievers for the headaches that had become her constant companion since losing her job at Horizon Design 3 weeks ago. "Next customer, please." The cashier's voice pulled Naomi from her mental calculations. She approached the counter and began placing her items on the conveyor belt, arranging them meticulously as if their order might somehow reduce their cost. "Rough day?" the cashier asked, noticing Naomi's furrowed brow. Naomi forced a smile. "Just busy," a half-truth that preserved her dignity. As the cashier scanned her items, Naomi's eyes drifted to the next register, where a commotion had broken out. A man with disheveled gray-streaked hair and a worn jacket was frantically patting his pockets. His beard was unkempt, and dark circles surrounded his eyes. The cashier there looked increasingly impatient. "I'm sorry, sir, but your card has been declined again," the cashier announced, loudly enough for nearby customers to hear. The man's shoulders slumped. "Please try once more." "I have money in there. I know I do." "We've tried 3 times, sir." "Perhaps you'd like to use another payment method." Naomi watched as the man's face flushed red. He was older than her, maybe early 40s, but something in his expression reminded her of her father after the factory closed down. That look of a man who once had everything under control, now facing the public humiliation of not being able to pay for basic necessities. "That'll be $21.65, Naomi's cashier announced. Naomi handed over her cash and waited for the change. $5.35 returned to her. Not even enough for a coffee at the overpriced shop near her apartment, but enough to make it through the day without going completely hungry. As she collected her change, the man at the next register was now emptying his grocery bag, setting aside a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter while returning the rest. "Just these 2 items, then," he said quietly. "How much?" $7.83, the cashier replied. The man's face fell further. He began digging through his pockets again, pulling out loose change and counting desperately. "I only have $4.12, he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. I'll come back another time." Something twisted in Naomi's chest. She knew that feeling, the gnawing panic of not having enough, the silent prayers that the numbers would somehow add up differently the next time you counted. Without fully processing what she was doing, Naomi found herself stepping toward the man. "Excuse me," she said softly. The man looked up, his blue eyes clouded with defeat. "I couldn't help overhearing," Naomi continued, reaching into her wallet and pulling out her last $10 bill. "Would this help?" For a moment, the man just stared at her extended hand. The cashier shifted uncomfortably. Other customers pretended not to watch, though their curious gazes were poorly concealed. "I can't take that," the man finally said. "You don't even know me." Naomi felt a small laugh escape her lips. "True. But I know what it's like to have a bad day." She pressed the bill into his hand. "I'm Naomi, by the way." The man's weathered fingers closed around the money. Jasper, he replied, his voice catching. Jasper Holloway. Well, Jasper Holloway, consider it karma. Someone helped me once when I needed it. That wasn't entirely true. No one had stepped in when Naomi had been in similar situations, but she wished someone had. Perhaps that's why she found herself helping this stranger now. Jasper paid for his items, collected his change, and turned back to Naomi. Thank you, he said with unexpected formality. May I ask why? Naomi considered the question, aware that her bus would be arriving soon. Because everyone deserves a little grace sometimes. Just pay it forward when you can. She gathered her groceries and turned to leave, feeling Jasper's eyes follow her as she exited the store. The cool autumn air hit her face, and reality quickly set in. $10. She had just given away $10 that she absolutely could not afford to part with. Her rent was already 2 weeks late, her electricity bill was due tomorrow, and she had just thinned her already meager food supply for the week. As she waited at the bus stop, a hollow feeling settled in her stomach. It wasn't regret exactly, but fear. Fear of what those $10 might have meant for her own survival. The bus rounded the corner, and Naomi fished out her transit pass, thankfully prepaid from better days, and boarded. The ride home was a blur of concrete buildings and mounting anxiety. Her apartment building came into view, a weathered 5-story walk-up with peeling paint and a perpetually broken elevator. Naomi trudged up the 4 flights of stairs to her unit, each step a reminder of how quickly her life had changed. 3 months ago, she had been a senior graphic designer at Horizon, with a comfortable salary and a growing portfolio. Then came the acquisition, the restructuring, and suddenly her position was redundant. 6 years of dedication reduced to a small severance package and a rushed goodbye lunch. Naomi unlocked her door and entered the small 1-bedroom apartment she could no longer afford. She had already sold most of her non-essential belongings, her tablet, her grandmother's silver, even her beloved collection of art books. All that remained were the basics and a few cherished photographs. She placed her groceries on the kitchen counter and began methodically putting them away, mentally rationing each item across the coming days. The bread would need to last at least 5 days. The eggs could be stretched to 7 if she was careful. The bag of rice might see her through 2 weeks if she kept portions small. Her phone buzzed with a notification, another rejection email from a job application she had submitted last week. The position had been filled internally. Naomi deleted the email without reading past the first paragraph. It was the 4th rejection this week alone. As she prepared a small dinner of rice and a single egg, Naomi thought about Jasper Holloway. Who was he? How had he ended up in that grocery store with a declined card and not enough cash? He didn't have the typical appearance of someone chronically homeless. His clothes, though worn, were once of good quality. His speech was educated, his manner dignified despite his circumstances. Naomi ate slowly, savoring each bite and trying to ignore the knowledge that tomorrow's meals would be even smaller. As she washed her plate, her phone rang, an unknown number. Hello, she answered cautiously. Ms. Reynolds? This is Drake Peterson, your landlord. Naomi's heart sank. Mr. Peterson, I know I'm behind on rent. I've been applying for jobs every day, and I'm expecting to hear back. I've heard this before, Ms. Reynolds. Peterson cut in, his voice cold. I've been patient, but business is business. If you can't pay in full by the end of the week, I'll have to begin eviction proceedings. The call ended before Naomi could respond. She sank down onto her worn sofa, the full weight of her situation crashing down on her. 5 days. She had 5 days to come up with $1,150, an impossible sum given her circumstances. As night fell, Naomi prepared for bed, her mind racing with increasingly desperate options. She could try to sell her laptop, though she needed it for job applications. She could ask her brother for help, though he was struggling with his own growing family. She could apply for emergency assistance, though the waiting lists were notoriously long. What she couldn't do was take back the $10 she had given to Jasper Holloway. Despite everything, that was the one action from today she couldn't bring herself to regret. As she drifted into an uneasy sleep, Naomi wondered if Jasper was safe tonight, if her small gesture had made any difference in his life. She couldn't have known then how profoundly that simple act of kindness would change both their lives in the days to come. The alarm blared at 6:30 a.m., but Naomi had been awake for hours. Sleep had proven elusive, her mind cycling through worries like a hamster on a wheel. She silenced the alarm and stared at the ceiling, the morning light casting long shadows across her bedroom wall. Her stomach growled loudly, a painful reminder of yesterday's decision. $10. The thought kept returning, not with regret but with a growing sense of unease. That $10 could have been breakfast and lunch for 3 days. It could have been bus fare for a week of job interviews. It could have been a small payment toward her mounting utility bill. Naomi swung her legs over the side of the bed and forced herself to stand. The morning routine that had once been automatic now required deliberate effort. Shower, dress, prepare for another day of job hunting. She opened her refrigerator and stared at the meager contents, calculating how to stretch what remained. Half a slice of bread. That would have to do for breakfast. She couldn't afford to use an egg today. As she chewed the dry bread, Naomi checked her email on her phone. 2 more rejection letters awaited her, form responses that barely acknowledge her qualifications. Thank you for your interest, but we have decided to pursue other candidates. While your background is impressive, we require someone with more specialized experience in. Naomi deleted them both and continued searching for new listings. A design position at a small marketing firm caught her eye. The pay was lower than she was accustomed to, but the office was within walking distance, a significant advantage given her dwindling resources. She quickly updated her resume and crafted a cover letter, emphasizing the skills that best matched the job description. As she hit send, a familiar knot formed in her stomach. How many applications had she submitted in the past 3 weeks? 30? 40? The silence was becoming deafening. After submitting 3 more applications, Naomi checked the time. 9:15 a.m. She had an interview at 11 o'clock with Meridian Publishing, a company across town. It was for a junior position, a significant step down from her previous role, but it was something. She needed to leave by 9:45 to catch the bus. Naomi reached for her transit pass and froze. The expiration date glared back at her. May 8th. Today was the 9th. Her monthly pass had expired, and she hadn't renewed it. A single bus ride would cost $2.50 each way. $5 she didn't have. Walking would take over 2 hours. Biking wasn't an option. She had sold her bicycle last month. Naomi sank into a chair, the reality of her situation crushing down on her. The $10 she had given away would have covered her transportation with change to spare. She picked up her phone with shaking hands and called the interviewer. Hello, this is Naomi Reynolds. I have an interview scheduled for today at 11 o'clock, but I'm afraid I need to reschedule due to an unexpected transportation issue. I'm sorry, Ms. Reynolds, but we're completing all first-round interviews today. If you can't make it, we'll have to remove you from consideration. Naomi swallowed hard. I understand. Thank you for the opportunity. Another door closed. She ended the call and pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting back tears. When she had composed herself, Naomi grabbed her laptop and headed downstairs. The building's lobby had spotty Wi-Fi that she could use to continue her job search. As she descended the stairs, Naomi nearly collided with an elderly woman struggling to carry a bag of groceries. Oh, excuse me, Naomi said, steadying the woman by her elbow. Thank you, dear, the woman replied, her breath coming in short gasps. These stairs get steeper every year. Naomi recognized her as Rosie Fernandez from apartment 2B. They had exchanged pleasantries in the past, but never had a real conversation. Let me help you with that, Mrs. Fernandez, Naomi offered, taking the grocery bag. It's Ms. Fernandez, actually, the woman corrected with a small smile. Never found anyone worth changing my name for. And you're the nice girl from 4C, aren't you? Yes, Naomi Reynolds. Well, Naomi Reynolds, you're a lifesaver. My arthritis is acting up something fierce today. Naomi carried the groceries to Rosie's apartment, noticing the woman's uneven gait and wincing expression with each step. Would you like me to put these away for you? Naomi asked as Rosie unlocked her door. Oh, I couldn't impose. It's no imposition. I have some time. That was true, though not in the way Rosie might assume. Without the interview, Naomi's morning was painfully open. Inside, Rosie's apartment was small but immaculately kept, with crochet doilies on the furniture and framed photographs covering nearly every surface. Naomi placed the groceries on the kitchen counter and began unpacking them. You're very kind, Rosie observed, lowering herself into a chair. Not many young people would take the time. Naomi shrugged, arranging cans in the cupboard. It's nothing, really. Nonsense. Kindness is never nothing. Rosie watched Naomi with shrewd eyes. You're having a hard time, aren't you? The question caught Naomi off guard. She considered deflecting, but found herself nodding instead. Lost my job a few weeks ago. Still looking. What did you do? Graphic design. 6 years at the same company. Rosie clicked her tongue sympathetically. My nephew was in tech. Had a similar situation a while back. It can happen to anyone these days. Naomi finished putting away the groceries and washed her hands at the sink. Well, your groceries are all sorted. Is there anything else you need before I go? Actually, Rosie said, reaching for her purse, I was going to bake some cookies today for my church group. But with my hands the way they are, would you consider helping me? I could pay you a little something. Naomi hesitated. She needed the money desperately, but accepting payment for such a simple favor felt wrong somehow. I'd be happy to help, but you don't need to pay me. Nonsense, Rosie insisted. My time is valuable, and so is yours. $20 for an hour of your help. $20. Almost enough to replace what she had given away yesterday. Naomi's pride warred briefly with her necessity before surrendering. That would be very kind of you, Ms. Fernandez. The next hour passed quickly as Naomi followed Rosie's instructions, mixing dough and forming cookies while the older woman supervised from her chair. Rosie kept up a steady stream of conversation, sharing stories about her late husband, her time as a nurse, and her large extended family. My nephew is the only one who visits regularly, Rosie said as Naomi slid the last batch into the oven. He's had his troubles, that boy, but he's got a good heart. Reminds me a bit of you. When the cookies were cooling, Rosie pressed 2 crisp $20 bills into Naomi's hand. One for helping with the groceries, one for the baking. Ms. Fernandez, that's too much. I decide what's too much in my own home, Rosie said firmly. Besides, these are the best-looking cookies I've made in years, thanks to your steady hands. Take some with you. Naomi left Rosie's apartment with $40 and a small bag of chocolate chip cookies, more than she had expected when she woke up that morning. The money wouldn't solve her problems, but it would buy her a few more days. Back in her apartment, Naomi refocused on her job search with renewed determination. The brief respite with Rosie had eased some of her anxiety, reminding her that connection, even fleeting, could provide unexpected relief. By late afternoon, Naomi had submitted 7 more applications and scheduled a phone interview for the following day. Progress, however small. She allowed herself a modest lunch, a boiled egg, and a cookie from Rosie before continuing her work. As evening approached, Naomi's phone rang. It was an unknown number, but hoping it might be a potential employer, she answered quickly. Ms. Reynolds. The voice was familiar, unwelcome. Yes, Mr. Peterson. I'm calling to remind you about our conversation yesterday. The rent situation. Naomi tensed. I remember. You said I have until the end of the week. That's right. 5 days to come up with $1,150, or I'll have no choice but to begin eviction proceedings. I have others interested in the unit, you understand. I understand, Naomi replied, her voice tight. I'm working on it. See that you do. The call ended abruptly, leaving Naomi staring at her phone. The $40 from Rosie felt insignificant now against the mountain of debt looming before her. Even if she found a job tomorrow, she wouldn't receive a paycheck in time to save her apartment. As night fell, Naomi prepared for bed, her mind racing with increasingly desperate options. She could try to sell her remaining jewelry. She could apply for emergency housing assistance. She could beg her brother for a loan, despite knowing his own financial struggles with twin newborns. A knock at her door startled her from her thoughts. Naomi approached cautiously. Unexpected visitors were rare, especially at this hour. She peered through the peephole to see Drake Peterson standing in the hallway, his expression grim. With a deep breath, Naomi opened the door. Mr. Peterson, I told you I'm working on the rent. This isn't about the rent, Peterson interrupted, handing her an envelope. This came to the building office for you. It's marked urgent. Naomi accepted the envelope with confusion. Thank you. Peterson lingered a moment, his eyes sweeping over her disheveled appearance. The rent deadline stands, Ms. Reynolds. I know. After he left, Naomi examined the envelope. Her name was written in an elegant hand, but there was no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a brief message. Ms. Reynolds, I need to speak with you regarding a matter of mutual importance. Please meet me at Riverside Café tomorrow at 10 a.m. I believe this conversation will be to your benefit. J.H. The initials nagged at her memory. Jasper Holloway? The man from the grocery store? It seemed unlikely. Why would he track her down? And how would he even know her full name or where she lived? Naomi placed the letter on her counter, unease mingling with curiosity. Who was J.H., and what could they possibly want with her? More importantly, could this mysterious meeting offer any solution to her mounting problems? As she finally drifted off to sleep, Naomi's dreams were filled with faceless strangers offering help with outstretched hands, only to vanish when she reached for them. Through it all, the image of Jasper Holloway's weathered face and grateful eyes lingered, a phantom reminder of a kindness she could no longer afford. 4 days remained until her eviction notice became reality. 4 days to somehow conjure over $1,000 from thin air. For days that felt increasingly like a countdown to inevitable disaster. What Naomi couldn't know as she slept was that the next morning would bring an encounter that would change everything, an encounter directly tied to her impulsive act of generosity just 2 days before. Riverside Café buzzed with morning customers as Naomi claimed a small table by the window. She had arrived 15 minutes early, anxiety propelling her through her morning routine with unusual efficiency. Her hair was neatly combed, and she wore her last cleaned blouse with small efforts to appear put together despite her circumstances. She nursed a glass of water, unable to justify spending money on coffee. The server had given her an impatient look when she declined to order, but Naomi held her ground. She wasn't here for breakfast. She was here for answers. At precisely 10 a.m., the cafe doors swung open. Naomi's breath caught in her throat as a tall, well-dressed man entered. His silver-streaked hair was neatly trimmed, his posture confident. It took her several seconds to recognize him. Jasper Holloway, the same man she had given her last $10 to just days ago. But the transformation was startling, gone with a disheveled appearance and defeated eyes. This man moved with purpose, scanning the room until his gaze settled on her. "Ms. Reynolds," he said as he approached her table. "Thank you for coming." Naomi straightened in her chair. "How do you know my name? How did you find me?" Jasper placed a sleek leather briefcase on the table and sat across from her. "May I order you something? You look like you could use a proper breakfast." Before she could protest, he signaled to the server and ordered 2 full breakfast platters and coffee. Naomi's stomach betrayed her with an audible growl. "I imagine you have questions," Jasper said, his voice different from what she remembered, clearer, more authoritative. "Several," Naomi replied, studying his face. The same blue eyes, but now alert and focused. "Starting with who you really are." Jasper nodded. "Fair enough. My name is indeed Jasper Holloway. Until 3 years ago, I was the CEO of Meridian Investments." Naomi's eyes widened. Meridian Investments was a major financial firm, often featured in business news. 3 years ago, I suffered what doctors politely call a nervous breakdown. The less polite term is complete psychological collapse. Jasper's fingers tapped rhythmically on the table. "I walked away from everything. My company, my wealth, my identity. I lived on the streets by choice, seeking something. Redemption, perhaps. Perspective, certainly." The server arrived with their coffee. Naomi wrapped her hands around the warm mug, absorbing both the heat and Jasper's unexpected story. "The man you met at the grocery store was the real me, stripped of pretense and privilege. I'd been living that way for months, watching how people behave when they think no of consequences looking. So what happened at the store? It was some kind of test?" Naomi felt a flicker of anger. "You didn't actually need my $10? "No, I didn't need it financially. But I needed to see if anyone would give it." Jasper's expression softened. "Out of 37 people who witnessed my predicament that day, you were the only one who helped. The only one who saw me as a person worthy of kindness, rather than an inconvenience to be avoided." The server returned with their food: eggs, bacon, toast, and fruit arranged attractively on white plates. Naomi hesitated only briefly before picking up her fork. Pride wouldn't fill her empty stomach. "That still doesn't explain how you found me," she said between bites. "Ah, yes." Jasper sipped his coffee. "After our encounter, I followed you. Not immediately. That would have been inappropriate. But I watched which bus you took, which neighborhood you entered. From there, it wasn't difficult to locate your building." Naomi's fork paused midway to her mouth. That's unsettling. I apologize for the intrusion. But what I discovered next confirmed my instincts about you. Jasper leaned forward. I saw you help an elderly woman with her groceries. Rosie Fernandez. Naomi blinked in surprise. You know Ms. Fernandez? She's my aunt. A smile crept across Jasper's face. The universe has an interesting sense of humor, doesn't it? The woman I was testing you with happens to be directly connected to me. But she never mentioned. She doesn't know I've been watching her building. We've been estranged. My behavior during my corporate years was not something she approved of. When I learned she lived in your building, I was planning to reconnect with her soon. Naomi set down her fork. Her appetite suddenly diminished despite her hunger. Why am I here, Mr. Holloway? What do you want from me? Jasper reached for his briefcase and placed it between them. My time on the streets changed me, Ms. Reynolds. When I returned to my life 6 months ago, I established a foundation dedicated to recognizing and rewarding genuine kindness, the kind that comes with no expectation of return, the kind that often demands real sacrifice. He unlatched the briefcase and turned it toward her. Naomi gasped. Inside were neatly stacked bundles of cash. $50,000, Jasper stated matter-of-factly. Tax-free. A gift from my foundation to you, with no strings attached. Naomi stared at the money, unable to process what she was seeing. This is insane. You can't just. I only gave you $10. You gave me your last $10, Jasper corrected. There's a profound difference. And then, when faced with your own urgent needs, you still helped my aunt without hesitation. Naomi's hands trembled as she closed the briefcase. How do you know it was my last $10? Your careful counting at checkout. The limited items in your basket. The way your hand lingered on the bill before you handed it over. Jasper's eyes held hers. I've spent 3 years watching people, Ms. Reynolds. I've become quite observant. The cafe continued its morning bustle around them, oblivious to the life-changing conversation at their table. Naomi felt lightheaded, the unreality of the situation washing over her in waves. Why this amount? Why me specifically? The foundation identifies one recipient per month. The amount is always $50,000, enough to make a significant difference without completely upending someone's life path. Jasper pushed the briefcase closer to her. As for why there's something uniquely genuine about helping someone when you yourself are in crisis. It speaks to character rather than convenience. Naomi placed her hands flat on the table, steadying herself. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. But there is one more thing I'd like to offer. Jasper produced a business card from his pocket. My company is rebuilding. We need talented designers who understand the value of empathy in business. The position comes with full benefits and a salary that reflects your experience. Naomi accepted the card, reading the embossed title, Creative Director, Holloway Foundation. This isn't charity, Jasper clarified, noting her expression. I've seen your portfolio online. Your work is exceptional. I'm offering you this position because you're qualified, not because you need it. Tears welled in Naomi's eyes, but she blinked them away. How do I know this is real? That you're who you say you are? Jasper smiled. A healthy skepticism. You can research me when you get home. Or call my aunt, though she'll be surprised to hear we've reconnected. The money and the job offer are real, regardless of your decision. He stood and buttoned his suit jacket. Take the weekend to think about the job. The money is yours either way, a recognition of what true kindness looks like in a world that often discourages it. Before leaving, Jasper placed a hand on the briefcase. There's a note inside with my personal contact information. And Naomi, thank you. Not just for the $10, but for reminding me of who I want to be. 5 days later, Naomi stood in her apartment, rent paid in full for 6 months in advance, preparing for her first day at the Holloway Foundation. Her new business cards had arrived that morning. Naomi Reynolds, Director of Creative Services. On her refrigerator, held by a magnet, was a simple note she had written to herself. $10 can change 2 lives. What she couldn't have known that day in the grocery store was that her small act of kindness hadn't just helped a stranger. It had completed a circle of karma that would transform both their futures in ways neither could have imagined. And somewhere across town, Jasper Holloway was watching another stranger in another moment of crisis, waiting to see who might step forward when kindness was needed most.